The grand hall of Vorthrex shimmered with light from 1,000 crystal pillars. Ambassadors from 47 different alien species stood in their places waiting for the meeting to begin. Some had scales that glowed in the dark. Others had tentacles that moved like water. A few floated in the air inside special bubbles filled with gas. This was the Galactic Council, and today they would make an important decision. Ambassador Krelnik stepped forward. He was from the Zhirtari species, tall and thin with skin like blue glass. His species had been traveling through space for over 50,000 years. They thought they knew everything about war and peace. He carried a data tablet that glowed with information about a small planet called Earth. Krelnik spoke in a voice that echoed through the hall. "The humans have broken our laws 23 times, he said. They refuse to follow council rules. They expand their ships into zones we told them to avoid. They steal our technology and use it without permission. They are primitive and dangerous." The council members nodded. They had all read the reports. Humans had only been traveling in space for 312 years. That was nothing compared to the ancient species in the council. Some council members had been exploring the galaxy for 200,000 years. To them, humans were like children playing with fire. "The humans don't even have proper shield technology," said General Vosrek, a military leader from the Kellic species. His forearms crossed over his chest as he laughed. "They still use kinetic weapons, bullets and missiles. How primitive. We stopped using those weapons 50,000 years ago." Other council members shared their opinions. "The humans have no telepathic abilities. They cannot link their minds together. Each human thinks only for himself. They have no unity. They fight among themselves. How can such a divided species be a threat?" Krelnik showed images on the large screens around the hall. These were pictures of Earth's military forces. The council members saw old warships, maybe 200 of them. They saw defense platforms around Earth's moon. They saw ground bases with railguns pointing at the sky. It all looked weak and outdated. "Our computer models show that humans can be defeated in less than 1 week, said Krelnix. "We estimate their entire defense force has maybe 4 million soldiers. We have 4 billion in our combined forces. The odds are 1,000 to 1 in our favor." The vote was called. Should the council send a fleet to force humanity to surrender? One by one, all 47 species voted yes. Not a single voice spoke against it. They called it a proportional response. They called it a remedial military action. They made it sound simple and clean. The council decided to send 9,700 ships. This was called Annexation Fleet Alpha. It would carry 4.2 million soldiers from different species. General Vosrek would command the fleet. This would be his 34th annexation. He had done this kind of mission many times before. It always ended the same way. The primitive species would see the fleet, realize they could not win, and surrender without fighting. "We will give them 72 hours to surrender," said Vosrek. "If they refuse, we will disable their weapons and occupy their planet. Minimal casualties. Standard procedure. We will be done in time for the Festival of Stars." The council members celebrated. They talked about how they would divide Earth's resources. The planet had rare minerals. It had water. It had a perfect location near important trade routes. Different species argued about who would get the best mining rights. Far away from Vorthrax on a space station orbiting Earth's moon, General Sarah Chen sat in a dark command center. She was the UN Defense Coordinator. Her job was to protect humanity from threats. She had just received the Council's message. It appeared on her screen in glowing letters. "Surrender in 72 hours or face military action." Chen was 53 years old. She had gray hair pulled back tight. Her face showed no emotion as she read the message 3 times. Around her, junior officers waited nervously. They had all heard rumors about the Council's power. Everyone knew that the Council had never lost a war. General Chen touched a button on her desk. A red light turned on. This activated something called Protocol Thermopylae. It was humanity's secret defense plan. Only 12 people in the entire human government knew about it. The plan had been created 80 years ago, when humans first made contact with Council scouts. "What are your orders, General?" asked a young lieutenant. Chen stood up and walked to a large window. She could see Earth below, blue and green and beautiful. She could see the moon stations. She could see the defense platforms that everyone thought were humanity's only weapons. She allowed herself a small, cold smile. "Send them our response," Chen said. "Tell them we refuse their demands. Tell them to withdraw immediately. And then activate all hidden assets. It's time to show them what humans really are. Meanwhile, General Vossarek stood on the bridge of his flagship, a massive vessel called the Star of Dominion. Around him in space floated 9,699 other warships. They were organized in perfect formation. Each ship gleamed with advanced technology. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their shields could stop any known attack. The fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace. The destination was Earth's moon. Vossarek had chosen this position because it would be intimidating. The humans would look up and see nearly 10,000 alien warships blocking out the stars. They would understand that resistance was impossible. Set coordinates for the Luna orbit, Vossarek commanded. Standard intimidation formation. Prepare surrender broadcast in all human languages. His officers obeyed quickly. They had done this many times. They knew the routine. Jump to the target system. Show overwhelming force. Broadcast demands. Wait for surrender. Occupy the planet. Celebrate victory. It was all very predictable. Vossarek thought about his promotion. After this easy victory, he would probably become a fleet marshal. He might even get a seat on the council itself. He imagined the ceremony, the medals, the respect from other species. Hyperspace jump in 10 seconds, announced the navigation officer. Vossarek watched the countdown. He felt bored. This would be quick and simple. The humans were outmatched in every way. They had no chance. In 1 week, maybe less, this would all be over. The Galactic Council would add another primitive species to its empire. Everything would continue as it always had. The countdown reached 0. Space twisted and bent. The 9,700 ships disappeared from Council space in a flash of light. They were going to Earth. They expected an easy victory. They expected fear and surrender. They had no idea what was waiting for them. They did not know that humans had been preparing for this moment for 80 years. They did not know that everything they had seen about human defenses was a lie. They did not know that humans never fought fair. And they did not know the most important thing about humanity. When humans are backed into a corner, when their home is threatened, when their children are in danger, they become something terrifying. Back on Luna Station, General Chen watched the sensors. She knew the alien fleet would arrive in less than an hour. She knew what would happen next. She had planned for this day her entire career. She touched another button on her console. All across the solar system, hidden weapons came online. Stealth ships that had been waiting in silence for years suddenly activated. Weapon platforms hidden in asteroids powered up. Defense systems buried on moons and planets armed themselves. Humanity's real military force, 100 times larger than the Council estimated, prepared for war. Chen spoke quietly into her communication device. All forces, this is command. Enemy fleet will arrive in 53 minutes. You know your orders. You know what's at stake. Show them why you never invade Earth. Show them why you never threaten humanity. Make them regret every light year they traveled to get here. The response came back from thousands of ships and stations. Yes, General, we're ready. For Earth. For humanity. The battle that would shock the galaxy was about to begin. The alien fleet appeared around Earth's moon in a flash of light. 9,700 warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. They formed a wall of metal and energy that blocked out the stars. Each ship was enormous, some as large as cities. Their weapons glowed with power. Their shields shimmered in space. On the bridge of the Star of Dominion, General Vossarek smiled with satisfaction. The formation was perfect. Every ship was exactly where it should be. The humans would be able to see the fleet from their planet. They would count the ships and realize they had no hope. Open a channel to Earth, Vossarek commanded. All frequencies. I want every human to hear this message. The communication officer nodded and pressed several buttons. A green light indicated that the broadcast was active. Vossarek cleared his throat and began to speak. His words were automatically translated into all human languages. People of Earth, this is General Vossarek of the Galactic Council Fleet. You are surrounded by 9,700 warships. Your defenses are inadequate. Your weapons are primitive. Resistance is impossible. You have 1 hour to broadcast your unconditional surrender. If you refuse, we will disable your weapons and occupy your planet. This is your only warning. Vossarek ended the transmission. He expected a quick response. Usually, primitive species surrendered within minutes of seeing a council fleet. Fear was a powerful weapon. The sight of so many advanced warships made resistance seem foolish. But 3 hours passed. The humans sent only one message. It came from General Sarah Chen at Luna Station. The message was short and simple. Request denied. Withdraw immediately. The officers on the bridge of the Star of Dominion looked at each other in confusion. One of them laughed nervously. Perhaps the humans don't understand, he suggested. Maybe their translation systems are broken. Vosrek frowned. He had never encountered such a response before. Every other species had surrendered, or at least tried to negotiate. But the humans simply said no. It was strange. It was almost insulting. They're bluffing, Vosrek decided. Prepare to demonstrate our power. Target one of their orbital platforms. Destroy it. That will show them we're serious. But before the weapons officer could lock onto a target, something happened. The Council fleet's sensors began to scream warnings. Ships detected movement all around them. Energy signatures appeared on the scanners. Hundreds of them. Then thousands. What is that? Vosrek demanded, staring at his screens. Unknown contacts, sir, the sensor officer reported, his voice shaking. They're all around us. They just appeared. I don't understand how they got so close without being detected. The truth was simple but terrible. Humanity had been lying for 80 years. Ever since first contact with Council scouts, humans had been preparing for this exact moment. They had studied every Council species. They had learned about Council weapons, Council tactics, Council psychology, and they had built weapons that the Council had never imagined. The ships appearing around the Council fleet were human stealth vessels. They used quantum technology to remain invisible to normal sensors. They had been hiding in the asteroid belt in the rings of Saturn, even under the surface of the moon. Some had been in position for years, waiting silently. There were 3,000 stealth ships in total. Each one was small compared to the Council vessels, but they were fast and deadly. They carried weapons that the Council thought impossible. Weaponized singularities, relativistic kinetic projectiles, quantum entanglement bombs. These were not primitive weapons. General Chen's voice came over all frequencies. Now you see the truth, she said calmly. You came to our home. You threatened our children. You demanded our surrender. Big mistake. The human ships opened fire without any further warning. There were no negotiations. No second chances. Just sudden, overwhelming violence. The Council had never encountered anything like it. In the first 30 seconds, 300 Council ships were destroyed. The attacks came from all directions at once. Some ships were hit by relativistic projectiles moving at a fraction of light speed. The impacts released energy equivalent to nuclear weapons. Other ships were caught in quantum entanglement fields that tore them apart at the atomic level. Council shields, designed to stop energy weapons and plasma blasts, were useless against these attacks. The technology was too different. The physics were too strange. The Council's scientists had been too confident in their knowledge. Vosrek stood frozen on his bridge, watching ships explode on his displays. His mind could not process what was happening. This was impossible. Humans were primitive. They were supposed to be easy targets. How did they have such weapons? Return fire, he finally screamed. All ships engage the enemy. The Council fleet tried to fight back. Thousands of energy beams and plasma torpedoes lit up space. Some hit the human ships. A few exploded. But most of the human vessels dodged with impossible speed. They moved like insects, quick and unpredictable. Their computer systems could react faster than any organic crew. And then Earth's visible defenses joined the battle. The orbital platforms that looked old and weak suddenly revealed hidden weapons. The 200 human warships that everyone had seen were just the beginning. Thousands more emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. The humans had planned every detail. They knew where the Council ships would appear. They had studied Council fleet formations for decades. They knew every weakness, every standard procedure, every tactical doctrine, and they had designed their battle plan to exploit all of it. The human strategy was brutal and efficient. They didn't try to fight fair. They didn't follow any rules of war. They simply killed as many Council ships as possible, as quickly as possible. There was no honor in it, no glory, just cold, calculated violence. And they used psychological warfare too. Human ships broadcast messages on Council frequencies. They played recordings of dying Council soldiers calling for help. They sent videos showing Council ships being destroyed. They hacked into ship computers and displayed casualty counts in real time. They even broadcast human music, dark and aggressive, that made many telepathic species feel sick. One broadcast particularly disturbed the Council forces. It was General Chen reading from an ancient human text. We are the species that hunted mammoths with stone spears. We are the species that survived ice ages. We are the species that split the atom and walked on our moon before we had computers. We are the species that turned every animal we met into either a friend or food. And you came to our home thinking you could make us submit. Now you will learn what humans do to invaders. The battle raged for hours. The Council fleet, despite having nearly 10,000 ships, could not organize an effective defense. The humans were everywhere at once. They attacked from above, below, from inside asteroid fields, from behind moons. Every time Council forces tried to regroup, another wave of attacks would scatter them. By the end of the first day, the Council had lost 2,400 ships. Human losses were 47 ships and multiple defense platforms. The exchange rate was horrifying. For every human ship destroyed, the Council lost 50. Vosrek sent a desperate message back to the Council. Request immediate reinforcements. Enemy capabilities vastly exceed estimates, suffering heavy casualties. Cannot achieve objectives with current forces. The Council's response came 8 hours later. Reinforcements are not available. All other forces are committed to different sectors. You must complete the mission with existing resources. Failure is not acceptable. Vosrek read the message 3 times. He felt something he had never experienced in his 33 previous annexations. He felt fear, real cold fear. The humans were not going to surrender. They were not going to negotiate. They were going to fight until either the Council fleet was destroyed or Earth was destroyed. And for the first time in his career, Vosrek was not sure which outcome would happen. On Luna Station, General Chen watched the battle reports with no expression on her face. Her staff celebrated each victory, but she remained calm. She knew this was just the beginning. The Council fleet still had over 7,000 ships. The battle would continue for days, maybe weeks. Many humans would die. Many Council soldiers would die. But she had no doubt about the outcome. A young officer approached her desk. "General, why did we let them think we were weak? Why did we hide our true capabilities for so long?" Chen looked at the officer. "Because the best weapon is surprise," she said. "Because predators are most dangerous when their prey thinks they're safe. We studied them for 80 years. We learned everything about them. But they learned nothing about us except what we wanted them to learn. Now they're paying the price for their arrogance." She turned back to her screens. "Send orders to all fleet commanders. No mercy, no quarter. Every ship that came to invade Earth must be destroyed or driven away. Make the survivors tell the galaxy what happens when you threaten humanity." The battle continued into the night and the next day and the day after that. The Council fleet was being ground down, ship by ship, soldier by soldier. And the worst part for them was that the humans never stopped. They fought in shifts, always fresh, always aggressive. They hunted Council ships through debris fields and asteroid belts. They gave the aliens no rest, no time to repair, no chance to escape. 1 week had passed since the Council fleet arrived at Earth. What was supposed to be a quick victory had become a nightmare. General Vosrek sat alone in his command chair, staring at reports that made no sense. His fleet had been reduced to 3,800 ships. More than half his forces were gone, dead or scattered or simply disappeared. The humans continued their relentless attacks. They never stopped. When Council forces tried to rest or repair, human ships would appear and attack again. When Council ships tried to retreat to safe distances, the humans followed them. There was no escape, no relief, just constant grinding warfare. The different species in the Council fleet began to break apart. The Mindari, who were telepathic, suffered the worst. They could feel the emotions of dying soldiers. They could sense the fear spreading through the fleet. Some of them went insane from the psychological pressure. They had to be sedated or locked in their quarters. The Kelix warriors, proud and honor-bound, refused to retreat even when ordered. They believed that running from battle was shameful. Many of them died making heroic last stands that achieved nothing. Their four-armed bodies floated in space alongside their destroyed ships. The crystalline Jatari, who prided themselves on logic and calculation, ran probability models constantly. Every model showed the same result. The Council fleet would be destroyed if they stayed. But the Council ordered them to continue fighting. Logic said retreat. Orders said attack. The contradiction caused conflicts in their thinking. The humans exploited every weakness. They had studied each species carefully. They knew which ones were telepathic and bombarded them with horrifying thoughts. They knew which ones valued honor and trapped them in situations where honor demanded suicide. They knew which ones relied on logic and created scenarios that had no logical solution. Human psychological warfare reached new levels of cruelty. They broadcast fake distress calls from council ships, drawing rescue vessels into ambushes. They hacked into council computers and displayed messages from loved ones back home, making soldiers homesick and depressed. They even created false intelligence reports that made different council species distrust each other. One transmission particularly disturbed the council forces. It was a recording of human children singing. The song was called Ring Around the Rosie. It sounded innocent and sweet. But the humans explained that it was about a plague that killed millions of humans centuries ago. Children sang about death and disease as a game. What kind of species does that? The council soldiers asked each other. The humans also used guerrilla tactics in space. They would hide inside debris fields and wait for council ships to pass by. Then they would attack from behind, destroying engines and leaving ships helpless. They used false retreats to draw council forces into traps. They pretended to be damaged and called for help, then ambushed the rescue ships. Every battle felt like fighting ghosts. The humans would appear suddenly, attack viciously, then disappear before the council could respond effectively. Their stealth technology was far superior to anything the council possessed. Their computers calculated trajectories and probabilities faster than organic minds could comprehend. But the most disturbing thing was the humans themselves. Council soldiers who survived encounters with human ships reported strange things. The humans never tried to communicate during battle. They never offered mercy. They never accepted surrender. They just fought with cold mechanical efficiency, like machines. Like predators who had found prey. One council officer, a Jurtari named Quelix, managed to hack into a human communication channel during a battle. What he heard changed his understanding of humanity forever. The humans were not silent because they were emotionless. They were silent because they were focused. He heard brief, efficient commands. Target acquired, firing, target destroyed. Next target. It was like listening to wolves hunt. Quelix wrote in his report, "We made a fundamental error in our assessment of humanity. We assumed that because they fight among themselves, they are divided. We did not understand that humans evolved as tribal predators. Yes, tribes fight each other, but when an outside threat appears, all tribes become one. We are not fighting separate human nations. We are fighting humanity itself, and humanity is united in a way we cannot comprehend." By day 9, General Vosarek knew the mission was lost. He had lost 6,000 ships. 6,000? In any other annexation, losing even 100 ships would have been considered a disaster. But here, against these primitive humans, he had lost more than half his fleet. It was incomprehensible. He decided to retreat. It was the only logical choice. The council might punish him for failure, but at least he could save the remaining ships and soldiers. At least he could bring survivors home to tell what happened here. "All ships prepare for emergency hyperspace jump," he ordered. "Set coordinates for council space. We're going home." But before the fleet could jump, General Chen's voice came over all frequencies. Her tone was cold and final. "You came to our home. You threatened our children. There is no retreat. There is no escape. There is only the consequence of your choice. The council ships tried to activate their hyperspace drives. Nothing happened. The humans had deployed FTL inhibitor fields across the entire solar system. The technology was supposed to be theoretical, impossible to build. But humans had built it anyway. Now the council fleet was trapped. Panic spread through the remaining council ships. Soldiers who had thought they could retreat at any time now realized they were trapped in a system with an enemy that wanted them dead. Some ships attempted to fight their way out. They were destroyed. Other ships tried to hide. The humans found them. A Kelix warrior captain named Drax sent a final message before his ship was destroyed. To the Galactic Council he transmitted, "We have failed. The humans are not what we thought. They are predators of a kind we have never encountered. They evolved on a death world where everything tried to kill them. They survived by becoming better killers than anything else on their planet. We should have studied them more carefully. We should have left them alone. Tell the Council, never come here again." His ship exploded 30 seconds after he finished the transmission. The message reached Council space 2 weeks later. It was one of only a handful of final transmissions that made it out, before the human FTL inhibitors blocked all long-range communications. As week 2 began, The hunt intensified. That's what the humans called it now. The hunt. They no longer pretended this was a war between equals. It was extermination. The human fleet had grown to over 6,000 ships as reserves were activated. They outnumbered the remaining council forces 2-1. The humans organized their forces into hunting packs. Each pack consisted of 10 to 20 ships working together. They would search a sector methodically, checking every asteroid, every moon, every possible hiding place. When they found council ships, they would attack without warning. No negotiations, no mercy, just swift destruction. A junior officer named Talana commanded a small council ship that had been hiding in Saturn's rings for 11 days. She watched her sensors constantly, seeing the human ships getting closer. They searched in a grid pattern, checking each section carefully. They were patient. They were thorough. They were inevitable. Talana was Mindari, one of the telepathic species. She could sense the emotions of the human crews even at a distance. What she felt was not anger. It was not hatred. It was something colder. Determination. Purpose. The humans felt they were doing something necessary, like farmers clearing pests from a field. That terrified her more than anger would have. On day 12, a human ship found her. There was no dramatic confrontation. No speeches. The human ship simply appeared, scanned her vessel, and fired. Talana had 3 seconds to send a final thought to her family across the galaxy before her ship exploded. By the end of week 2, fewer than 800 council ships remained. Most of these were trying to hide or were too damaged to fight effectively. General Vosrek was dead. His flagship had been destroyed by a coordinated attack from 20 human ships. The command structure of the council fleet had collapsed completely. Acting Commander Jalis, a Jutari who had survived by keeping her ship hidden in the shadow of Jupiter, tried to organize the survivors. She sent coded messages to other council ships. "We must coordinate a breakout attempt," she told them. "If we all jump to hyperspace at the same moment, some of us might escape before the inhibitor fields can stop us." It was a desperate plan, but it was the only plan left. 400 ships agreed to try. They set a countdown. In exactly 6 hours, they would all activate their hyperspace drives simultaneously. Maybe the human systems couldn't block 400 jumps at once. Maybe a few ships would get through. Maybe someone would survive to warn the galaxy. General Chen watched the council ships gathering near Neptune's orbit. Her intelligence officers had decrypted their communications. She knew what they were planning. She could have stopped them at any time, but she waited. She wanted all the remaining council ships in one place. When the 400 council ships attempted their coordinated escape, 6,000 human ships were waiting for them. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 40 minutes. It was not even close. The council ships were desperate and disorganized. Acting Commander Jalis stared at her communication panel. Around her, the bridge crew of her small ship held their breath. They expected the humans to destroy them at any moment. After what they had witnessed in the past 2 weeks, there seemed to be no other possibility. The humans had shown no mercy to anyone, but General Chen's voice on the communication channel was calm and measured. She spoke like someone discussing business, not like a conqueror addressing defeated enemies. "Commander Jalis," she said, "you have 18 ships remaining from your fleet of 9,700. I know you're listening. I have a message for you and your crew." Jalis activated her microphone with a shaking hand. "This is Acting Commander Jalis. We are listening." "Good," Chen replied. "I want you to understand something. This battle did not need to happen. We did not want this. We never threatened you. We never attacked your worlds. We only wanted to be left alone. But your council decided we were primitive and weak. Your council decided to invade our home. Your council made a terrible mistake." Jalis said nothing. What could she say? Everything Chen said was true. The council had been arrogant. They had underestimated humanity. And now most of the invasion fleet was destroyed. Chen continued speaking. "I don't accept surrender. I don't negotiate with invaders, but I will grant mercy to those who flee and never return. I'm going to shut down the FTL inhibitor field in one corridor. You will have 60 seconds to jump to hyperspace. Take your 18 ships and go home. Tell your council what happened here. Tell them what it costs to threaten Earth. Tell them that humanity is not primitive. We are predators, and we protect our home." There was a long pause. Then Chen added one final sentence. and tell them that if they ever come back, we won't show mercy again. We'll bring the war to them." The communication ended. On Jalis's navigation screen, a green corridor appeared, showing a path out of the solar system. The inhibitor field had been deactivated in that direction. It was narrow, just wide enough for the 18 ships to escape if they moved quickly. "All ships, this is Jali's," she transmitted to the other survivors. "Follow me, maximum speed. Don't wait. Don't look back." The 18 ships accelerated toward the corridor. Their crews expected a trap. They expected the humans to destroy them as soon as they started moving. But nothing happened. The human ships just watched them go, silent, patient, allowing them to leave. Jalis's ship entered hyperspace first. The others followed within seconds. As her view of the solar system disappeared in a flash of light, Jalis saw one last image. Earth, blue and green and beautiful, and surrounding it, thousands of human warships like wolves guarding their den. The journey back to Council space took 47 days. It was the longest 47 days of Jalis's life. Her ship was damaged and running on minimal power. Food supplies were low. Many crew members were injured. But worse than the physical hardship was the psychological weight of what they had experienced. Every night, Jalis dreamed of the battle. She saw Council ships exploding. She heard the screams of dying soldiers on communication channels. She remembered the feeling of helplessness as the human ships hunted them through space. The dreams never stopped. The other survivors experienced similar trauma. Some could not eat. Others could not sleep. A few went completely silent, staring at nothing for hours. They had all seen friends die. They had all watched the impossible happen. A primitive species had defeated the mighty Galactic Council fleet. Nothing in their understanding of the universe made sense anymore. When the 18 ships finally arrived in Council space, they were met by military patrol vessels. The patrol commanders were shocked to see survivors from the Earth annexation. They had received no communications from the fleet for weeks. They had assumed something went wrong, but they never imagined this. "Where is the rest of the fleet?" the patrol commanders asked. "Dead," Jalis replied simply. "All dead. 9,682 ships destroyed. 4 million soldiers lost. The mission was a complete failure. The patrol commanders could not believe it. They demanded detailed reports. They asked the same questions over and over. How could a primitive species destroy an entire council fleet? It was impossible. There must be some mistake, some explanation. But Jalis had no other explanation to give. She told them the truth. The humans were not primitive. They had advanced technology. They had been preparing for invasion for decades. They had studied the Council and learned all our weaknesses. And they fought with a determination that no Council species understood anymore. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. It was held in the same crystal hall where they had authorized the invasion just 6 weeks earlier. But the mood was completely different now. There was no confidence, no celebration, just shock and fear. Jalis stood before the Council and delivered her report. She spoke for 2 hours, describing everything that had happened. The initial attack, the hidden human weapons, the psychological warfare, the systematic destruction of the fleet, the final hunt, everything. When she finished, the chamber was silent for a long time. Finally, Ambassador Krelnix, who had first proposed the invasion, spoke. "This is clearly exaggerated," he said. "No primitive species could achieve such results. The commander must be incompetent or lying to cover her own failures." Jalis felt anger rise in her chest. She had watched thousands of soldiers die. She had barely escaped with her life. And now this bureaucrat, safe in his crystal hall, dared to call her a liar? "I have recordings," she said coldly. "Battle footage, sensor data, final transmissions from dying ships. I can show you exactly what happened. And when you watch it, remember that this disaster happened because you refused to believe that humans could be dangerous. Because you thought primitives were easy to conquer. Because you were too arrogant to see the truth." She activated her data pad. The screens around the chamber came to life with images from the battle. Council members watched in growing horror as human weapons tore through their ships. They saw the quantum explosions. They saw the relativistic impacts. They heard the screams of dying soldiers. They witnessed the methodical destruction of ship after ship. One recording particularly affected the Council. It was from a Kelix warrior captain named Drax, moments before his death. His final message played for everyone to hear. "Tell the Council never come here again," his voice said. Then his ship exploded and the recording ended. When the presentations ended, chaos broke out in the council chamber. 12 species demanded immediate retaliation. They wanted to gather all council forces, maybe 100,000 ships, and destroy Earth completely. They wanted revenge. They wanted to show humanity that the council could not be defeated, but other species urged caution. They pointed out that humanity had just demonstrated it could defeat superior numbers with superior tactics. If 9,700 ships failed, what made anyone think 100,000 would succeed? The humans would have time to prepare. They would study the new fleet. They would find new weaknesses to exploit. And there was another consideration. General Chen's final message. Jalis played that recording too. "We'll bring the war to them," Chen had said. The implication was clear. If the Council attacked Earth again, humanity would not just defend. They would attack Council worlds. They would bring their terrible weapons to peaceful planets that had not seen war in thousands of years. The Council members began to realize something frightening. They had awakened a sleeping predator. For decades, humanity had been quiet and peaceful in their corner of the galaxy. But that was not because they were weak. It was because they chose to be peaceful, and the Council's invasion had ended that choice. Jalis spoke again, her voice cutting through the arguments. "I have one more message to deliver," she said. "It's from General Chen, transmitted specifically for this council." She activated the final recording. Chen's face appeared on the screens, looking directly at the camera. Her expression was neither angry nor triumphant. It was simply determined. "Members of the Galactic Council," Chen said, "you sent 9,700 ships to invade one species that asked only to be left alone. You failed. Humanity has reverse-engineered your FTL technology. We have studied your weapons. We have learned your tactics. We now possess all the technology from your destroyed fleet." She paused, letting that information sink in. Then she continued, "We are now coming to Council space, not as conquerors, but as equals. We will arrive in approximately 9 months. Prepare appropriate diplomatic reception, and understand this clearly. We do not forget. We do not forgive. But we can coexist if you respect the sovereignty of all species. Choose wisely. Choose peace, because if you choose war again, we will finish what you started." The recording ended. The council chamber fell into stunned silence. Then the arguing started again, louder than before. Some species wanted to prepare for war. Others wanted to negotiate. A few suggested relocating the council headquarters to a different galaxy entirely. But Jalis knew what the decision would be. She had seen humanity's power firsthand. She had survived only because the humans allowed it. And she understood something that many council members were too proud to admit. The galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer a primitive species to be controlled. They were now a major power. The Crystal Hall of Vorthrax looked different from how it had 9 months ago. Then it had been filled with confident ambassadors who believed they ruled the galaxy. Now those same ambassadors looked nervous and uncertain. They were waiting for the humans to arrive. Outside the hall, 50 human warships hung in orbit around the planet. Each ship was massive, larger than most council vessels. Their hulls were painted dark gray, making them look like predators. On each hull, written in bright letters that could be seen from the surface, were the words, "Remember the 9700." It was a message. A reminder. A warning. The humans wanted everyone to know what had happened when the Council tried to invade Earth. They wanted the galaxy to remember that. Humanity had turned a fleet of 9,700 ships into wreckage and bodies. Alice stood near the back of the hall watching the proceedings. She had been promoted after delivering her report. She was now an advisor to the Council on matters relating to humanity. It was not a job she wanted, but someone had to do it. Someone who understood what humans were really capable of. The human delegation entered the hall. They walked in formation, precise and military. At the front was General Sarah Chen, though she now wore diplomatic robes instead of a military uniform. She had been promoted to ambassador. Behind her walked 50 humans, representatives from different nations and organizations on Earth. The humans did not look afraid or impressed by the Grand Chamber. They looked calm and confident. They had earned their place here through force. Everyone in the hall knew it. The humans knew that everyone knew it. There was no pretending otherwise. Ambassador Chen walked to the center of the hall where speakers traditionally stood. The council members watched her carefully. Many of them had watched recordings of the battle. They had seen what human weapons could do. They looked at this small gray-haired woman and tried to imagine her ordering the deaths of millions. It was difficult to reconcile the calm diplomat with the ruthless warrior. "Members of the Galactic Council," Chen began. Her voice was strong and clear. It echoed through the chamber. "We come here today not as conquerors, but as a sovereign species demanding recognition. For too long, you have treated humanity as children to be managed, as primitives to be controlled. That ends today." Some council members shifted uncomfortably. Chen continued speaking. 9 months ago, you sent an invasion fleet to Earth. You came to our home with weapons and soldiers. You demanded our surrender. You threatened our people. You made a choice. And that choice had consequences. She paused, looking around the hall at each species representative. "We did not want war. We never threatened you. We asked only to be left alone. But when you forced war upon us, we fought with everything we had. We destroyed your fleet. We sent 18 ships back to tell you what happened. And now we are here." Ambassador Krelnix, the Jatari who had first proposed the invasion, stood up. He looked much older than he had 9 months ago. The disaster had affected him deeply. "Ambassador Chen," he said quietly, "the Council acknowledges our error. We underestimated your species. We were arrogant and foolish. We paid a terrible price for that arrogance. Many Council members lost friends and family in the battle. We ask for your understanding." Chen's expression did not change. "Understanding?" she repeated. "You want understanding? Let me tell you what I understand. I understand that you made your decision based on incomplete information. You saw what we wanted you to see. You underestimated us because we let you underestimate us. That was our strategy, and it worked perfectly." She walked closer to the council members. "But here's what you need to understand about humanity. We are not like you. We did not evolve on peaceful worlds with gentle climates. We evolved on a death world, a planet that tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages, predators, disease, starvation. Our entire history is a story of survival against impossible odds." Chen's voice grew harder. "You species have been traveling in space for hundreds of thousands of years. You've known peace for so long that you've forgotten what real war is. You've become soft, comfortable. You think war is something civilized with rules and limits. But humans remember what war really is. War is survival. War is doing whatever it takes to protect your home and your people." A Kelix representative stood up, his forearms crossed. "Are you threatening us, Ambassador?" he asked carefully. Chen turned to look at him. "No," she said simply. "I'm explaining reality. Humanity does not want war. We do not want to conquer. We do not want to rule over others. We want to be left alone to live our lives in peace. But if you threaten us again, if you attack our worlds, if you endanger our people, we will respond with overwhelming force. That's not a threat. That's a promise." She looked back at the assembled council. "We're here to establish diplomatic relations. We're here to trade, to share knowledge, to cooperate on mutual interests. But we're also here to make something absolutely clear. Earth sovereignty is non-negotiable. Human rights are non-negotiable. And if any species in this council ever threatens humanity again, we will not show the mercy we showed to your 18 surviving ships." The hall was completely silent. Every council member understood the implications. The humans were offering peace, but it was peace backed by the threat of terrible violence. It was not the kind of peace the council was used to, but it was honest, direct. And after seeing what happened to their invasion fleet, no one could doubt that humanity meant every word. A Mindari representative, a telepathic species, spoke next. Her voice was soft and sad. "Ambassador Chen, we have studied the reports from the battle. We have tried to understand humanity's mindset. Many of us find it disturbing. You fight with such determination, such ruthlessness. You show no mercy to your enemies. How can we trust a species that is so violent?" Chen considered the question carefully. Then she answered, "You can trust us because we are honest about what we are. We don't pretend to be peaceful and then invade weaker species. You did that. We defend ourselves and our allies with absolute commitment, but we also honor our agreements. When we promise peace, we keep that promise. When we promise trade, we keep that promise. And when we promise consequences for aggression, we keep that promise too." She paused, then added, "You asked about mercy. Here's what you need to know. We didn't show mercy during the battle because you were invading our home. You were threatening our families. In that situation, mercy is suicide. But we did show mercy at the end. We let 18 ships escape. We allowed survivors to return home. We could have destroyed them all. We chose not to. That's the difference. We're violent when we need to be, but we're not cruel. Jalis stepped forward. The council had asked her to speak at this meeting. She approached the center of the hall and stood next to Ambassador Chen. She looked small next to the human, but she spoke with authority. I was there, Jalis said to the council. I commanded one of the 18 ships that survived. I watched thousands of my fellow soldiers die. I experienced humanity's warfare firsthand. And I'm here to tell you that everything Ambassador Chen says is true. The humans are dangerous. They are terrifying in battle. But they are also honest and honorable. They did what they said they would do. They defended their home. They let survivors go free. And now they're here offering peace. She turned to face the other council members directly. We have a choice. We can accept humanity as equals, treat them with respect, and build a peaceful relationship. Or we can continue to see them as threats, prepare for more war, and eventually face destruction. I know which choice I prefer. I've seen enough death. I want peace. Her words carried weight because everyone knew she had survived the battle. She had seen humanity's power. If she believed peace was possible, then perhaps it was. The council voted. It was not unanimous. 12 species voted against accepting humanity. They believed it was too dangerous, too risky. But 35 species voted in favor. The decision was made. Humanity would be granted full council membership. Earth's sovereignty would be recognized. A new law called the Sol Sovereignty Act was passed. It stated that Earth and all human territories were forever inviolate. No council species could claim authority over humanity. No council fleet could enter human space without permission. When the vote was announced, Chen nodded respectfully. On behalf of humanity, I accept this membership. We look forward to peaceful cooperation with all council species. We bring new technologies, new ideas, and new perspectives. Together we can accomplish great things. But then she added one more thing. Her voice grew cold again. And let this day be remembered throughout the galaxy. Remember what happened when you tried to conquer Earth. Remember the 9,700 ships that came to invade. Remember the 18 that returned. Remember that humanity fights like cornered predators when threatened. Remember, and never make the mistake of threatening us again. The ceremony ended. The human delegation left the hall and returned to their ships. As they departed from Vorthrax, the 50 warships flew in perfect formation. The words "Remember the 9,700" glowed bright enough to be seen by everyone on the planet below. Jalis watched them go from an observation deck. A young council diplomat stood next to her. The diplomat, who had never experienced war, asked a question. What are humans really like? Are they as dangerous as everyone says?